I kid you not, the points and notes for this video have been ready for at least 2 months now. Hi friends, I'm sorry again for the very long hiatus. Life got a bit crazy and to be honest, I got a bit lazy. Well, not really lazy, it's just things were hectic. But yeah, as you can tell, I have moved. I have 2 cats. One of them you can see there, sleeping. What's new? Without further ado, let's just get into the video, which is perfect parenting. Does it exist? The short answer is no-ish. You probably came into this video knowing that there's no such thing as a perfect parenting style. If we're talking about should you be strict, lenient, and how lenient should you be, or how strict should you be, and what should you allow, and when should the bedtime be. I personally don't believe that there's anything that is perfect in terms of those rules. If you haven't watched the previous videos already on like mommy issues and daddy issues, please watch them first. The main point I wanted to come with at the end of both videos is that sometimes parents don't even do anything wrong. They had the best intentions, but for whatever reason, it just didn't work out right. The reason I relate to this a lot is because I'm the eldest of 3. Is that what you say? Like if we're 3 in total, then I'm the... Whatever, point is, I'm the eldest and I have 2 siblings, sister and a brother. We grew up with the same parents. I would say my parents' style has not changed much. There might have been some small variations here and there, but generally in like our main development periods, they were the same. And yet, our personalities are quite different in terms of how we deal with conflict, openness about certain things, what we feel comfortable talking about or not talking about, how we deal with our parents ourselves. It's quite different. Now, for example, I've always been more anxious, especially with conflict with my parents, and I wasn't very good at standing up to them and saying what I truly felt. I was much more of a people pleaser. And the youngest of us is similar to an extent. But then you've got like the middle child, which is my sister, is a bit more vocal. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I don't have any issue standing up to someone or calling someone out in general in life, but when it comes to my parents specifically, it's a bit different. Whereas my sister really just doesn't care, and if she feels like she has a point to make, she will make it, which is actually commendable. The interesting part there is that I'm the eldest, my brother's the youngest, and she's the middle child. If it was anything about my parents getting more strict or less strict with time, then you would see like what you'd expect if that was how life worked. The personality shift would be in a linear sense, not a weird, like, you know, you get what I'm trying to say. So there's definitely something else happening. It does not seem like a one size fits all. Now that we've basically said, okay, there's no certain parenting style that's perfect, I just want to talk about why. The biggest thing here is that we know humans are complex. We are not clones. We are not robots. Every person has different personality, different experiences that also can impact, form their personality depending on where you are at life. That in itself, having a different personality means that even if the same thing happens to you, the same parenting style is used on you, you might react differently. And aside from that, it's like whether the child's personality complements or goes well with their parents' personality. If you've got a child that wants much more independence than their parent thinks they should get at that point, or is comfortable giving at that point, or maybe the opposite, maybe the parent wants you to be more independent and you are like, nah, I'm not there yet. I know I am 18, but please make me cereal. Aside from the fact that just your personality can dictate how you react to a certain parenting style, it's also about whether you and your parents' personalities clash. Some children, they don't like the same things as their parents and they are not scared to show it and fight for it. That already could create some friction, right? And other children might be people pleasers. They will try their best to do everything that their parent finds favorable until maybe one day they crack, or they don't, but usually they do crack. I think we all crack. But then there's also the fact that the way that a child develops is what affects their behavior. Development is partially the parents, how the parent treats them, how the parent brings them up, what values they teach them, but it's also the environment, it's also the friends that they hang out with. So that's why maybe with me, yeah, I had the same parents as my 2 siblings, but I grew up in a different time. There's 5 years age gap between me and my sister, and an 8-year age gap between me and my brother. In that time, there's been changes in the way that even if we went to the same school, the way that school operated and what was allowed. Life changes a lot in that time, so the environment that they're in changes, and you're at school about 8 hours of a day for quite a bit of time. The point is that the way that you or your child develops is not just limited to parents. Then you've got the physical environment and you have the virtual environment. Does the child spend a lot of time online? If they are online, what kind of content are they consuming? Are they getting sucked into emo Tumblr? That was me. what's going on. All right, so like there's a lot of factors there, and that all together is what develops a person. That being said, then what is the best way to ensure that a child grows up to be a well-adjusted adult who can have healthy relationships and have a good relationship with their parents firstly before anyone else, really? This is where I would say that there actually is a perfect parenting style. It's just not in the way that we expect it to be. That perfect parenting style is being flexible and being forgiving to yourself. I have this quote, and I don't remember what it's from or who said it because I made these notes at least 2 months ago. The irony is, what's really important being a parent is that we give ourselves the permission to screw up. And I think that's where a lot of the issue is. Parents who are too strict are trying to not do anything wrong. They want to make sure their child is the best child, the perfect child who is punctual, gets up on time, shows up to things on time, treats guests with respect in the most socially acceptable way, does all the right activities, goes for a degree or a career in something that is seen as respectable in that society or at that point in time. And so that's why they are very limiting. They're very restrictive. They're very sensitive to when their child does not do exactly what they think is the best thing to do. And because sometimes some parents feel like it reflects on them. And then you've got the too lenient parents. I'm not going to say it's all the time, but a lot of times the person is lenient because maybe they had strict parents growing up and they don't want to traumatize or restrict their child in the way they felt they were restricted, and they don't want to screw up in that sense as well, and so they become too lenient and completely lose control. And yeah, okay, again, personalities, temperaments are different from child to child, and maybe one child is actually still able to turn out completely fine and great with a very lenient parent, but some children, they start to act out because they want the parent to act like a parent and discipline them, even if it's subconscious, rather than just let them do whatever they want, because maybe they see parents to their friends or on TV being a certain way. They're like, why isn't my parent doing that? Do they not care about me? So as humans, and especially parents, they're always very concerned about screwing up, and this is where the mistakes happen, when in reality your parenting style should be, number one, is to be forgiving to yourself. If you don't accept that you're not going to be a perfect parent, because there's no such thing, then you're gonna have this ego being defensive, so that if your child ever calls you out on something, then you're not even going to be open to being a better parent. You know how we act when we really care about something but we're getting criticized. We can't accept that we screwed up, and then that creates more problems. You will be a better parent when you can treat your child with the respect of a complete human being. If they express their feelings that something you did was not cool, wasn't nice, or hurt their feelings, the best thing as a parent to do, the way to be a perfect parent there, is to admit or to at least acknowledge that what you did hurt them and see how you can compromise or do things better in the future. So forgiveness. And then flexibility. Every child is different. Every person is different. Each one of your friends has a different personality, and based on that, you might treat them differently. You know basically what works best for them in terms of communication or making plans. Just like you would adjust your behavior to them, do that for your child. Like I said, again, treat them like a complete human being, not an extension of yourself, as if they don't have their own personalities, their own wants, their own needs, their own goals, their own likes and dislikes. Don't project yourself onto them. Don't compare them to yourself or to other children. It's not gonna go well for them in the long run if they feel like they're not enough for you because you keep comparing them to other people. And realize, especially if you have multiple children, that just because one of your kids was the kind to come and tell you everything about their day as soon as they got through the door, even if you didn't want to hear it, your next child is not going to be the same. They might need to be asked. And just because they don't come in and talk about their day doesn't mean that they might not crave it. It's just good to try and have that communication with your child, so that even if it doesn't come naturally to their personality for whatever reason, they learn how to communicate and they learn to be open with you, so that as they grow up and get older and go through life stages, the more difficult stages, they are okay to share with you. They are okay to be vulnerable with you, and they know that you are there as a support system, so that helps them develop as a well-adjusted adult even more. You want to make sure that you're building a positive childhood. A positive childhood does not have to mean being completely open to everything and letting them do whatever they want. It doesn't mean no discipline. Children at that point in time, when you try to place a rule, as long as it's within reason, and preferably that you explain to the child, no matter their age, why you're doing such and such. They might still not be happy with it, but at least when they look back, they can be like, oh, I see what my parent was doing there. They had good intentions and wanted me to develop a certain skill or a certain good habit, and I understand it now. I look back on my childhood or my teenage years and I'm like, oh, I see why my parents were doing that now, and I wish I'd listened. Or it's good that I got a head start. It's only the things that were objectively not a good thing to do that I would say, oh, I don't want to do that as a parent. Even now at this age, I'm like, oh, that's not cool. Being strict with good reason and to help your child's development, don't be scared to do that. You want to balance discipline and hearing them out. You want to set rules, but if they tell you that doesn't work for me, at least listen to them and talk about it. Doesn't have to mean, again, that you do what they want exactly, but you make them feel heard. You want your child to feel like they can voice out their wants and their needs, and that they can develop their autonomy and control over their lives while still having you there. In the end, you are a work in progress until the day that you die. And so the best you can do is to observe, communicate, and be involved with your child. It's better to make sure, rather than being a perfect parent, you want to be an effective parent. You want to just make sure that you're doing the best you can to give them a good childhood, to make them feel heard, to let them learn empathy, to learn how to communicate, to know that you're a safe space. Spend quality time with them. You need to do that to do all the rest, really. You gotta spend the quality time to teach them anything, to make them feel safe with you, open with you, close to you. That is the perfect parenting style. I know I'm not a parent, but it's what I am gonna do. You can follow me or not.